Hello, welcome to our Fit for Success podcast, designed to help entrepreneurs and executives generate the energy and the stamina that they need to perform at their highest level and grow their careers. My name is Kristen Nolan, and I'm a high performance health expert and speaker for busy professional women and men. And today I'm interviewing Jane Hanson, who is a media and presentation coach. Jane is actually a nine-time Oh,
What?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought that we lost our live. I saw something, shut down on my end. So I thought we lost everybody, but we didn't. All right, let me try this again. Today I'm interviewing, right? Jane Hanson, who is a media and presentation coach. Jane is a nine-time Emmy award-winning television journalist, speaker, and trainer. Among her clients are top-tier leaders of corporations in the fields of finance, education, fashion, sports, and media. She is a co-anchor and host of the shows Today in New York, Jane's New York, and New York Live. Jane also chairs a number of foundations to include March of the Dimes Walk America, the Susan B. Komen's Foundation Race for the Cure, just to name a couple of them. And there are many more, which is awesome. She's also the president of the New York chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. So today's podcast is for you. If you have a hectic schedule, but you know that you need to look and feel your best because you are continuously in the public eye, and you need to know how to capture your audience with the words that you are saying. Jane, I want to welcome you to our show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, you're very welcome. It's fun to be here on Facebook Live. You know, as a broadcaster, I've done live shows for many, 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 many years. And
Yeah,
it's
I
great
saw
to
that.
be it's great to be actually using all this new technology to bring things live so people can see it when they want to see it.
Yeah,
Like right now.
absolutely. Yeah, like right now, I know we're getting some great people who are joining the show right now, live and in person. So thank you for joining us. So Jane, how about let's talk a little more about you. Can you tell our audience more about the work that you're currently doing to help entrepreneurs and executives communicate their messages powerfully?
Well, one of the things, I mean, I just talked about technology, and one of the things that all of this technology has brought to us is much more immediacy, much more attention to our messages, and it also means that we really have to be on target 24/7 because you never know when there's going to be a camera, you never know when something's going to be out there, how through whatever means it is. So I think it's more important and more crucial than ever that we are on message.
Mm,
And what I find from people is, you know, we spend an awful lot of time thinking about how we feel about an issue or how we would handle a particular project. But sometimes the hardest question for people to answer is, what do you do? And they go, well, I do this, I do this, I do that. And I'm telling you, this comes all the way from chairmen of the board down to somebody who's just joined a company. And
mm.
so what I try to do is help people learn how to really get their message honed and fine tuned so that it resonates all the time with whomever they're speaking to. It's really important to do that today.
I agree with you. And can you tell me, because it's so funny that you say that, because I can tell you that for years I struggled with the what do you do question. And why is it that that is so hard for people to answer? I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
I think it's like the old adage, you can't see the forest for the trees, because we want to get it all in one quick thing.
Hmm.
But when you try to, it's like trying to jam something. Is try to jam 10 rows of toilet paper in a small little bag or something. You just can't. You can't put it all in one place. And so what we really need to do is figure out, what do I do? And the most important part of that is, what makes me different from other people who may do something very similar? Because we want to talk about, always want to talk about our own uniqueness and what we bring versus anybody else. And this is not about competition. It's simply about saying, you may be the ultimate fitness expert, but your particular expertise is, I'm not even sure what it is, but there's one place where maybe you really, really rock it. versus somebody else who's really good in their particular place. So we have to figure out, what is it about us that makes us uniquely good at what we do? And then the second thing is, sometimes, and women have this particular problem, is sometimes we're afraid to say what we're really good at, because we don't want to be a bragger, we don't want to be overly self-confident. So it's all this stuff, you put it together and it means we can't answer that question. And it's really silly. It's really silly.
It is silly. And yeah, like I said, I really did struggle for years with that. But if anything, I feel like it sort of eliminates the competition because you are bringing your uniqueness and what makes you great at your gifts top
Mm-hmm.
of mind. And what I'm going to be good at is not what the next fitness trainer is going to be good at. So,
Exactly.
anyway, yeah,
Well,
when you
we
get
need to
really,
own that, and it's all about owning that. And what, let's make that be what we talk about, and who and what we are. Let's put that
Mhm.
right at the top. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. So, I can sense that you obviously have a packed schedule. You work with politicians, you work with corporate leaders, you're constantly in the public eye. So give us a rundown. How do you manage to keep your body healthy and energized through all of this? And what tips can you give our audience so they can do the same?
well, one of the things I notice about myself is, for a long time, let me start by saying this. For a very long time, I did early morning news in New York City, and which meant I had to get up at 3:20 a.m. and be at the office by 4. Now, they did everything for me, hair and makeup, and I would sit and have all this stuff done, where I'd be being on the computer, and I'd be going through the scripts and getting, preparing for the show, which started at 5. So I never had time to go to the gym. And then when I'd get done with work, I would go home early afternoon, and I had a choice: gym or nap, gym or nap. And guess what won most of the days?
Let me
Nap.
guess. Nap.
Nap. So, and then I would find, by the end of the day, I would just be dragging. And I
Mhm.
realized that if I didn't take care of my body and keep myself in really good shape, I didn't have the energy to perform well. And if you can't perform well, then you don't do your job. I just think, our brains need to be exercised, our body needs to be exercised. And I think
Mhm.
that's really important. So in today's world, I will I frequently am up at 6 a.m. And one of the first things I do is I go to the gym.
Mhm.
I also try to do a little bit of meditation before I do that when I first get up, because I just think that really helps get my day started. But
Mhm.
I go to the gym early and I get it done, and then I can move on with the rest of my day. If you drag it out and don't do it and say, oh, I'll do it when I get done, you never do it. At least
Yeah.
that's my problem. So I think that's important. One of the great things about spending a lot of time in New York is that you walk everywhere. And so
Mhm.
in New York City, you get a lot more exercise just by walking. So that's good too, because sometimes you can throw that in. So I will choose to walk someplace if it's, 15 or 20 blocks away, instead of taking a subway or a cab or a
Mhm.
bus. Walk. So, I think there are lots of little things you can do every day that will get you to get some exercise.
Yeah, that's perfect. So it's really comes down to knowing yourself
Mhm.
and when you will actually engage in the routine so that it becomes a habit for you. You know yourself and you're like, okay, Jane, if you put this off
On
to
it.
the afternoon, it probably ain't gonna happen. But if you get it done now, then you're gonna
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
so much better, right?
Right.
And
And one of the fun things is, sometimes by the end of the day, because it's such a part of the routine now, I'll go, now, did you go to the gym this morning? Oh, you did. Good girl.
delayed pat on the back.
Yes. Very delayed.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. And then I love how you were talking about, getting it in other ways. So just throughout the day, because you're in New York, you're able to make the choice to go and walk to your next appointment rather than take the subway.
Right.
There's so many little things that we can do, between clients or between appointments that I think a lot of times we don't really think about. So
Right.
really, opening yourself up to the possibility that there are more times in your day than you think you have to actually get some form of activity in is really important because then you'll be on the
Yeah,
lookout.
exactly. I also travel a lot, and so I'll frequently go between time zones.
Hmm.
And um, I always make sure that I have sneakers and some workout clothes with me.
Hmm.
Sneakers are probably most important of all. And again, I do the same thing. And so I'll walk to appointments. Hopefully I'll have some kind of map or something with me so I don't get lost.
Yeah,
Or I will say, you know what? I've got an extra 90 minutes here. I'm going to go get a quick workout at a hotel because virtually every hotel now has a gym of some sort or something you can do.
totally. Yeah.
Or, in a new city, it's really fun just to find a park and take a walk. And
Mhm.
that way you kill two birds with one stone. You're finding out about a new place and you get to see all this new scenery. And at the same time, you're getting a little bit of exercise.
Oh, totally. I mean, one of my favorite ways to zone out, and even it's slightly meditative as well, is walking around a new city. It's like it's interesting. It's the one time where my brain stops going at a million miles per hour, and I'm just looking at all the buildings, like, wow. It's really, especially in a place like New York. Oh my God, there's so much to look at over there.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to look at many places too. So,
It's true. No, it's true. So tell
it's,
me this, it sounds like physical activity is really important to you. And what I want to know now is, and it also sounds like you caught yourself when you were a broadcaster doing the early morning show. You weren't really getting your physical activity in. Have you had other times where you got so overwhelmed with business that you totally let yourself go? And if so, how did this affect your productivity and your ability to show up and perform at your best? And how did you recover?
uh, it absolutely affects productivity because I don't think in today's world that you can be so like sitting at a desk or in front of a computer for so long without your brain getting fried. I just don't think
Mm-mm.
it's possible. And we're so overstimulated. You're just talking about how your brain was moving at a million miles an hour. Mine does the same thing. And if I don't stop and go do something, I don't live very far from the beach where I am right now. I'm out on Long Island.
Oh,
And
nice.
sometimes I will literally get up, shut the computer, just flap it down, and walk out the door and go over to the beach and go for a little walk because I
Yeah.
just think it refreshes your brain. But yes, I've had those moments. I have a daughter who's now, she's going to be turning 27 next week. So when she was little, so I had, the house, the job, the daughter, the husband, all this stuff. And I felt like there was absolutely no time for me. And that's at the time that I was also
Mm-hmm.
choosing those naps versus the gym because I didn't have time for both.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you do get overwhelmed, I think your head starts doing strange things to you. I think
It
you
does.
start, you get so bogged down that you just can't find your way out of it. And you have
Yeah.
to take a break. I'm in great admiration of people who are able to say, where they've truly got that balance where they can
Mm-hmm.
literally say, okay, I've worked enough today, or this is my time for myself. I'm going to go do this. And it took me a long time to get there. And I think it takes people a while too, because we're so overstimulated and we've always got so much going on. And if we don't have so much going on, we're worried about where is what we need to have going on. So it's just all of that is coming at us. Um,
Yeah. No, you know what? I found the same way. And what's interesting is I'm really good about getting in my daily intentional movement, my daily meditation, making sure that I'm balancing my meals. And I got back from a business trip 2 weeks ago, and I felt so I the best way for me to describe it is just I was all up in my head. I was not in my body. I didn't feel grounded. I felt like I couldn't like just ground my thoughts, and my brain just wasn't working the way that it normally focuses. And so I found that I had to do a little bit extra that week, and a lot of movement to reset myself and get myself back in my body. So it's interesting how when life circumstances change, and especially since you're on the road a lot, you probably find this, you've really got to adjust your plan and adjust your activity so that you can maintain your sanity and your performance.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely. And it just, I mean, it all goes hand in hand. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think it takes you a while to learn that. And I also
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, my mother used to tell me that, you know, you need to balance stuff and you need to get some exercise. You know, she'd tell me all this stuff and I'd be like, yeah, 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 whatever. But all that ancient wisdom coming
Mm-hmm.
from, you know, from forever, it's all
Mm-hmm.
really true. It really is about how you just have to get your head in the right place, and your head's not going to be in the right place if your body isn't.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what's interesting is I found the same way. You're right. It does, or the same thing. It does take time for people to really know this and take this on. Most of my clients have established their businesses and they've been working in their business for years. They have a certain level of success. The ones who are just getting started with entrepreneurship, I never see them. You know, they are not my client because they haven't internalized the importance of it yet. And I feel like it takes people a while to internalize the importance. And usually, unfortunately, something has to go off with their energy. They have to get to a point where they reach adrenal fatigue or extreme exhaustion or some kind of thyroid disorder, or something that's literally stopping them from moving to the next level of success. So I wish that, and if that's you, by the way, then definitely make sure you give me a call. But also, if you're just getting started, really know the importance of this. I was
It's
I was actually interviewing this woman the other day, and she was talking about how she has seen the impact of, and she hosts events for seven-figure business owners, and she has seen the impact of a healthy person, a healthy host running an event versus an unhealthy host. And she says that it can affect sales by up to 10%. And this is something that she has seen. And they're selling, packages that are $20,000 to $100,000. So these are not cheap. That's obviously a big chunk of change, you know?
Well, it is. And that, you know, which leads me to a couple of points when you talk about communication.
Uh-huh.
When when you look good, when you feel good, you are good. You're so much better at what you're doing. And it also, there's this whole thing about body language, which I kind of specialize in the
Mm-hmm.
communication business. And when in our bodies and our lips and our mouth and our expressions and everything about our body language has to be in sync with the words that we say, or
Yes.
you aren't heard. You aren't heard correctly because innately, because, you know, not to get too deep into this, but we've been walking on earth for anywhere between 2 and 14 million years, depending on who you believe. But we've only had a spoken language for 160,000 years, which means
Mm.
that we have communicated through our bodies, through the emotions that are seen in our face, through with our arms and the way we have our eyes and the way we do everything. And it's
Mm-hmm.
innate and we don't even realize it. But just step back and think about the judgment calls you make when somebody walks in a room or they walk on a stage or they shake your hand or they start a meeting. If they're not at the top of their game, you are going to figure that out because their body's giving them away.
Well, that is exactly why I started this podcast, because I can see it. I see it happening all around me, especially with new entrepreneurs. And frankly, it's very hard for me to hire a coach that I can see is not taking care of themselves. And
Right.
I'm just being honest here because I feel that if they can't take care of themselves, how on earth are they going to help me solve my issues? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree with you with that, although there is a certain expertise that they may have that we may need to overlook some of that. I mean, because what you're talking about is self-discipline versus the discipline of knowing their information and their expertise. But
Yeah, but I feel
um,
like it shows up.
yeah, um, the the communication business is such an interesting thing because it really is about everything we do. You and I are communicating right now through this fabulous little Facebook Live thing and iTunes, et cetera, et cetera. But we communicate every day with all kinds of people, and we leave them with impressions. And those impressions, those immediate impressions, are very hard to eliminate or change. I guarantee you just, if you think about people you know, anybody who's been able to take a first impression that was negative and turn it into a positive is a little bit of a miracle worker. So we really need to think about, from the moment you start, to that event woman, the events person you were talking about, to her point about sales and all of that. The moment you walk in the door, that's why our physical appearance counts, and the way we carry our body counts, everything, how hygienic we are, how, do we match the moment? Do we match the people we're around? Are we addressing them in a way that makes them feel good? All of that is so important to our personal success, and to the success of the company we're working for, to the success of our life, to the success of our family. It's all really crucial.
Right. And when you feel good, you can be more present with how you're presenting yourself, right? And the way that people are reacting to you and taking in your information.
Right. So let me ask you a little question, because it directly relates to what you're saying. How long do you think the attention span is of the average American?
Is it 7 seconds or less?
It's 8 seconds.
8. Oh, okay. Almost had it.
And Microsoft did a study that said that is a second shorter than the attention span of a goldfish when it's eating. Now, the reason I bring this up, I know, really, who measures, like, what do they have in the goldfish's head? I don't know. Goldfish.
I don't know.
But anyway, so if you think about that logically, and you're talking about attention spans, what attention spans are this period of time where somebody's giving us their undivided look, their undivided attention, but that starts to move away very quickly in today's world because we're so occupied elsewhere. So we want to keep people engaged, and it may mean they're still listening, but they're thinking about, did I bring my keys? Or did I park my car in the right place? So they're thinking about something else kind of in the back of their head. And if we want to keep them engaged, we have to be really, 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 really present. We have to be really alive. We have to be really with them. We have to make sure what we're saying and how we're saying it gets their attention. And you can't do that if you're operating on 2 hours of sleep, you haven't had any exercise for days, you've had nothing but caffeine and potato chips. It ain't going to work. So
yeah, to your point. That's exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more. And what a good, thank you for that story. That was really, really helpful. And I can't believe that we are second to a goldfish in attention span.
I know.
That is interesting. Tell me this, Jane, are there any specific, because I know that you work with a lot of people on this, communication, media, and exposure. And tell me this, do you feel like you've seen specific tangible results of people that you have worked with who have really taken self-care on versus, one of your clients who maybe didn't do that?
I see a difference in the way that they present themselves, and in a difference in the way that they are received. Yes, I absolutely do. Let me just think if I can come up with some specific stories. When people have a success at something like, let's take, for example, maybe they've taken on a project of losing weight. And we all know there are a lot of people who struggle with the weight issue for many different reasons. I have seen people who, in addition to working with me, they might have taken on a trainer, and they have now slimmed down in 15, 20 pounds. They walk on the stage straighter. If they're giving a speech of some sort, they are because they feel so much better about the way they look to the world, they have a different demeanor. All of a sudden, their confidence is upped. And when the confidence goes up, we speak better. And when we speak better, people listen more. You know, and I also think that, how do I say this appropriately? When you feel really good about the way that you look, you may dress with a lot more kind of panache than you do otherwise. You may have a bit more sparkle to you. And it all works together. You know, instead of wearing basic black all the time, and I'm always advising people not to wear a lot of black on stage or on camera because it's a very somber color. And instead, I want them to be more expressive. I'm not suggesting wild prints because that doesn't work either, but I am saying wear a pretty blue, like your jacket that you have on, or just wear something that will brighten us up and make us feel good. So I think people dare to take those chances when they feel really good about the way they look. So
Yeah, and even if they are in an act of taking better care of themselves, it was interesting. I was talking to one of my clients today, and he was saying, "Oh my gosh, I've noticed that my self-esteem is better, even just after 2 weeks of being really mindful about the choices I'm making for my body, being mindful about my posture, doing more activity. I feel better, and mentally, I just feel like I'm taking better care of myself. So my self-esteem is higher because I know I'm doing the work to get myself to this other level." So it's really interesting how acts of taking care of ourselves can make us, better communicators, more confident, and all
it's
of that.
funny that you mentioned posture, because one of the things that we talk a lot about, and I use a video all the time with my clients. I'll
Uh-huh.
take a video of them making a presentation or doing an interview or whatever, and then we'll look at it. And one of the things that they will immediately pick up on is when they're really slouched over. Because when you're slouched over, you are perceived differently, as if you don't have confidence. Think about somebody who walks into a room whose posture is upright versus somebody who walks in with their shoulders slumped down. We immediately make a decision that that second person is somebody we may not want to spend time with. And
Right.
so now we're already turned off from whatever their message is. As we all know, good exercise, something like Pilates, which I love to do. Pilates makes your posture better. So does yoga. I do a lot of that. And particularly as we age, that becomes even more important because we slouch more as we age. So good posture. In fact, during a lot of my presentations, I have a slide that on it has an old poster, and it's got a man standing upright, and it says, "Good posture, good person." And then it's got the same man slouching over. It says, "Bad posture, evil person." So it's just very funny because it makes you say, "Whoa, that's what people used to think when you slouched over. You were an evil kind of person."
Right. Well, because you think about all the cartoons we've been exposed to, from a young age, and like a lot of times the evil characters will be kind of hunched over a little bit. So maybe that has something to do with it. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
Right?
posture is really important.
Hmm.
Posture affects us all, and and that's just one aspect.
Hmm.
So, and then there's another
Yeah.
part of about there's another part again about when you exercise, you fill more space, and
Hmm.
filling more space makes us seem more confident and
Hmm.
more credible and more trustworthy. So if we can do
Yes.
that, then that means that we are, filling more space. Again, that's all about, like, I don't know, do you know anything about posing? That's great.
Oh yeah.
The Amy Cuddy thing from the Harvard
Uh-huh.
professor. And
I'm
so
doing
she's
it, but you can't see me.
posing, being like a big eagle and Superman and all that kind of thing. And so she's done all those studies, which I also use in my communication work. To help people prepare in case they get nervous. So it's all
Hmm.
about doing the big poses before you go out to give a speech, because when you do that, it helps your adrenaline flow, the endorphins,
Hmm.
all of that, and you do a better job. So if you're
Hmm.
closed in and you've got your arms crossed and your arms crossed and all those things, That means you're holding yourself in versus spreading your wings. So again, all of that exercise and feeling good and doing the right things with your body helps all of that too.
Yes. Yeah, we couldn't agree more. Yeah, posture is something that I work with clients on from day one. It's such a big component of the program. And when you stand straighter, your brain can connect with your body more clearly. The signaling doesn't get blocked, right?
Right. Right.
So, and it's interesting because, one reason that posture becomes poor when people start to speak is because not everybody is comfortable with public speaking, right? And this, if you think about somebody who has a ball thrown at their face, like they're going to go like this, right? They're going to get kind of
You're
hunchy.
gonna duck,
So,
sure.
so sometimes bad posture can be correlated with with fear.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
know that one consistent theme you talk about is the importance of dealing with fear with public speaking. And you say that fear is up there with paying taxes and death.
it
Horrible.
is. There's
Tell me.
Jerry Seinfeld used to tell this joke where he'd say, at a funeral, most people would rather be in the box, in the coffin, than be in the pulpit giving the eulogy.
Oh my God.
Really afraid
Wow.
of speaking, and it is one of the things I encounter all the time.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in today's world, because again of what we're doing right now with Facebook and YouTube and iTunes and all of that, we are being forced to do so much more of it than we ever had to before. And
Hmm.
one of my biggest prizes, rewards in my work is when I can see somebody going from fear of speaking to loving it. Now, there's a
Hmm.
bunch of different components to make it from one to the other.
Right.
Um, First of all, I believe preparation is key. And just like you probably tell people to stretch before they do something and after they do something, I make sure that people are really well prepared for whatever it is they're going to speak about. They need to have their messaging clear, because if you're not clear about what you're going to say, there's a great quote from Winston Churchill, which is, failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Hmm.
So you have to be prepared. You have to know what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. So that's
Hmm.
key number one, is good preparation. The second thing is to then get your perception of yourself together. And sometimes that's so simple as everybody's got some kind of a smartphone, just take video and you take video and take a look at it. Nobody else ever has to see it. Just look at it yourself and say, ooh, I'm really awful there, but let me try that again. And the next time you do it, it's about
Hmm.
getting comfortable.
Yeah.
So the more comfortable you get, the better you're going to be. And then also, I'm sure that you've got a client where maybe you'd have them do something once, and the first time they do it, they can't do it very well. So what happens? You don't just say, oh, that's okay, we won't ever do that again. You say, okay, we're going to try that again. Or here's a little trick. Or, okay, next time we're going to do 5 of these. Today we did 2. Next time we're going to do 5. So you just keep doing it. And that's a part of this as well, is to get really comfortable by continuing to do it. Then I have them do things right before they start, such as the posing we just talked about. Another big trick is something that we do all the time, which is called breathing. And
Hmm.
with the breathing, what I'm talking about is a little exercise whereby you breathe in for 3 counts, hold it for 3 counts, breathe out for 3 counts, and do it 3 times. And again,
Hmm.
mind-body connection, that gets your body going. That gets your diaphragm so that you speak better, your voice gets a little bit lower, those sorts of things. And then if you get really nervous, they're not really there for the performance. And also that you're going to get some of it right no matter what, and you just keep building on it, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get, I promise.
So true. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I know that practice, I mean, we've all heard the old saying, practice makes perfect, but I can attest to that. I was a professional salsa dancer for a number of years, and we would practice the same routine I mean, like, I don't even know how many, how many hundreds of times I feel like we went through that same routine, making sure that every hand was perfect. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So because of that background, I'm a huge preparer, and it absolutely does help me to release fear about speaking in front of people. And I used to be that person who probably, I don't know if I would have wanted to be in the box. Like, that seems a little extreme for me. Yeah, that's like really, really intense. But I certainly was scared, um, j for lack of a better word, shitless of public speaking for a long time. But I knew I needed to do it to increase my business. And a lot of the skill sets you've just highlighted are so valuable. Um, and a number of those, in fact, I think all of them, is what I did to start releasing my fear about that and actually get grounded in my message and not be afraid to do that. So what you do to train entrepreneurs on that is so fabulous. I'm so glad that
Oh,
you're helping people with that.
there's one other thing that I think is important to think about, and there was a study that was done by the Harvard Business Re- the Harvard it was, this was in the Harvard Business Review. I don't remember exactly who did the study, but what they talked about was, and this is particularly true for women, when women started to focus on their purpose of why they were speaking instead of focusing on, what are they going to
Yeah.
think about me? Is my dress too short? What am I going to say? What if I forget that? I hope I keep them engaged, blah, 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 and going through all of that gyrations in your head that then, of course, get you rattled and blah, blah, blah. When you think about your purpose, why am I here? What am I truly, why am I here? And if you're there because, in your case, you're talking to people about healthier bodies and what a difference that's going to make in their lives. In my case, it's about if you communicate and your message resonates, it really means that people are going to learn from you and they're going to take away some new knowledge that's going to help them. I mean, in every single case, you're speaking because you're the expert on whatever the subject is. And if you focus on your purpose for being there versus your performance and all that other crap out there, it really, really helps.
hmm Yeah, I agree with you. It helps. It helps to think about the audience. It's not about you necessarily, it's about the audience,
Mhm. Yep,
right?
yep, absolutely. Audience is crucial because even though
Mm-hmm.
your message may be very similar, you really it's delivered in different ways. You're going to say something differently to millennials than you're going to say to little kids, than you're going to say to your grandparents, than you're going to say to your mother. So
Absolutely.
you
Hmm
might be saying the same thing, but the way that you say it and the words you choose to use are going to be different.
Right. They'll come out better if you connect to the audience rather than
Yeah,
be in your head about exactly
right,
how you're going to word something.
right. Yeah. So, and the simpler the better is always key.
Yeah.
And I think you know that. So I'm sure that you find that in your work all the time.
Yeah, I do. I do. And it's, the simpler the better. That's always something I personally work on because I can get really mouthy, really over explainy about certain things. So I know that about myself and I try to catch myself as much as possible. But again, what you do is so valuable for people. So, Jane, where can our audience go and learn more about you and the media and presentation services that you provide?
Well, you can go to my website, which is Jane Hanson, HANSON.com, and there's a good description there. And one of the fun things that I've recently done in partnership with the woman I used to co-anchor the news with, a woman named Mary Civillo, is we've created an e-learning platform. And so where a lot of what I've talked about today is in video form, and it's separated into modules. If you're making a presentation, here are some great ideas about how to make it better. If you're doing an interview, here's some great ideas. We've got one thing that's called Make a Minute Matter, which is really all about if you've only got a minute with somebody, how do you make that minute become a moment that might change your life? So it's
That's very cool.
it's
Very
really interesting. So and that there's a connection to that on my website as well. So um,
okay. I like
so
that.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I went through your website the other day. It was really thorough, and I loved how basically anything that you want to train on, you can select, connect with you, and you can get them all signed up and situated.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So there's
Perfect.
a lot of fun things going on. And that the heart and soul of it is just being able to have great conversations and connect.
Yeah. Yeah. So valuable. Um, Anyhow, Jane, I could talk to you all day. You're such a fun person to have on this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I know your schedule is crazy, so I really appreciate you making the time to be here and with us and our audience. And I also want to thank our audience. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you would love to connect with Jane, please go to her website and do so right away. She can help you hone your message and help you present better so that people are picking up what you're putting down, you're communicating better, and all of that good stuff that she just talked about. And if you're somebody who is kind of thinking to yourself, well, you know, this might be something, being more energized, being more fit, might be something I should consider because my confidence and my self-esteem is not so hot right now. If that's you, then please go to my Fit for Success quiz.com. Again, that's fitforsuccessquiz.com. Fill it out and we'll hop on a private call and see if we have any programs that will help to increase this confidence. So, Jane, thank you again. Thank you again
Thank
to our
you.
audience, and we will see you next time on Fit for Success. Bye.